Hello and welcome to another edition of the Well Child Show with KEMAK. My name is KEMAK Onyenucheya, your host, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today on this all-important edition of the show. Today on the show, I have a very special guest who is very dear to me and one of the foremost advocates for the improvement of education in Nigeria. I'm going to go on a very short breather, and when I return, the Well Child Show continues. Don't go away. Welcome back. If you're just joining in, it's the Well Child Show with KEMAK, and I'm glad that you're here with us today. On the program today, we're going to be looking at future relevant education. And my guest today is an education enthusiast. She has a bachelor's degree in chemistry from the Fordham University and also 2 master's degrees in chemical engineering and engineering management from Syracuse University. She's presently enrolled in a doctorate degree program in curriculum instruction and the science of learning at the University of Buffalo in the United States of America. She began her education career as an adjunct lecturer at the College of New Resources in Fordham University before moving on to New Rochelle, New York, and then on to the ITT Polytechnic in North Carolina. She also worked as a math and science educator in the public school sector in the city of New York. About 10 years ago, she founded the Charisma for You Educational Foundation to spread advocacy about STEM, that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and also to empower teachers and students with STEM skills for the 21st century. She's an author of about 10 critically acclaimed books, including the critically acclaimed Future Readiness in Education. And she was recently appointed the Senior Special Assistant on STEM Education in Lagos State. Welcome with me, Honorable Adetola Salau. Hello, Tola. You're welcome to the Well Child Show.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure to meet you here, to have you on the show. Congratulations on your recent appointment.
Thank you.
All right. Of course, it doesn't come as a surprise, considering the amount of work that you have put in to developing education in Nigeria. Congratulations once again.
Thank you.
All right. Can you briefly give us sort of like a history of your journey in the education field?
Here in Nigeria or
All
overseas?
Over, wherever, everywhere
wow.
you have been.
It's been quite a journey. I was just reflecting the other day that I actually should sit down and write a biography about my experiences. I've always known that I was going to be an educator because both my parents are professors. And I've always had that teaching bug. I've always wanted to impart knowledge, and seeing that gleam of understanding in another person's eyes has always been magical for me. And it never grows old, never grows old. So that's always been there. In terms of formally being in the education space, I would say informally, it started when I was in Fordham University. I started teaching right when I was in Fordham because my teachers saw that I could not help but teach constantly my fellow colleagues chemistry or mathematics concepts that they found so confusing that I always had a way of breaking it down and making it easier. In fact, my teachers sometimes will even hand me the chalk and say, you go ahead and explain it again to them. And when they finally met my mother, they said, now we understand why you always are so passionate and so excited and so enthused about teaching. So yes, I have always been doing it. I formally began in 2001, right after September 11. I was moved to serve because of what I saw around me that day. There was so much chaos.
That was a terrorist attack.
Yes, a terrorist attacks in New York. I lived in New York City, and I was right there in the middle of all the action. In fact, that day I was going to the board of city board in New York to go submit some paperwork, and I was kind of dragging my feet, not really committed whether I was going to do it or not. But when the Twin Towers fell down, and I saw how the firemen, the emergency personnel responded. It really moved me that we're in this together and we were supposed to build our city back. And an integral part of New York City are our children in New York. And I remember when I started, a lot of those children were still confused, they were very dismayed, but it was our job as educators to lift up their spirits again. And that year was a turning point. When I finished that first year, 2001 to 2002, I didn't go back. Wow. I continued to be an educator.
Great.
Yes.
So now, looking at your journey back home to Nigeria, I know you moved back about 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Now, the incident of the World Trade Center was, you know,
turning point.
A one-time event that turned things around for you. But it's safe to say that the continued deterioration of the system of education in Nigeria, I'm sure, was a greater motivation for you to pack your bags and return home.
Yes. All the time when I was teaching in the States, I always had that call within me, which was, we can do better. We need to do better. The children deserve better. And it was really strong because here I was using practical materials, using calculators to break down concepts to my students. And no one ever did that for me when I was in the classroom in Nigeria. And I remember wishing that if someone had done that, because I've always been passionate about creating things, inventing things, solving problems. Imagine if someone had pulled me along when I was in secondary school, well, actually from primary school, secondary school. Imagine all the things I could have created and invented. And that used to really make me very upset. And I said, I'm sure I'm not the only child who feels like this. And all along when I was in the States, I've always had that mindset that I can't wait to bring back all this that I'm learning and bring it to the children in Nigeria. So I used to always make sure that I packed textbooks. Like my principal, whenever they were doing auditing of textbooks and they were no longer using them, I will pack them and say, I'm going to bring this back to Nigeria. Whenever we will use CDs, I'll say, you know what, you guys are not using them, fine. I'm going to bring them back here with me. So I always package and always had that mindset, I'm going to bring this back, I'm going to use it for good over here.
No, great. Okay, now as someone who has had ample experience working in the public school system in New York and then coming back home and engaging the education space as a third sector practitioner, what are the major differences that you would say you have encountered? That's the first step. Let's deal with that first before we move on to what our teachers and our parents can do better to improve the learning outcomes of their children, particularly in STEM.
I think the first major shock that I received in returning was noticing that, I would say unfortunately, there was a major shift where we no longer appreciated intellectual, we no longer, because it's still present continuous, we no longer appreciate intellectual contributions, we no longer appreciate intellect. And this is pretty sad because when you look at all the things that have completely changed our lives right now, our smartphones, we're talking about the internet, social media, it all started in the minds of people. They imagined, they iterated. In fact, I have done research on this, and I found that a majority of these people are engineers. They're either engineers or they are scientists. I actually sat down and I did research on this. Yes, majority of them are engineers and scientists. So I asked myself that, what are we losing here now that we're not building our children in those areas, in science, in mathematics or tech? What are we losing? What are the ideas that could actually change our lives here? I remember when I first came back being perplexed about us having power problems. Because here you go outside and the sun is burning down on you so hard, all that power is just wasted. It could be turned around and generated and we could all use it. I couldn't quite understand that. For 5 years now, I've been generating, well, a lot of my power through solar energy. And I'm wondering, why is it that not everyone is doing that? Why do we not have major drives towards that all across the Federation? Why? So these are the kind of things that really I need for us to start working on and doing. And it can only start from the minds of our children and the people who mold them, the educators.
Great. Now, you're big. Everyone who knows you knows you're synonymous with future ready and relevant education. And you're talking about the re-engineering of minds.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about what the concept of future ready education, particularly as it relates to our children?
Yes. I sat down Yes, it was 2016. I sat down 2016, November. And I had, by that time, been really involved in going around to schools, interacting with public school teachers, interacting with private school teachers, interacting with proprietors, proprietaries, whatever you want to call them. And of course, the children. I tell people that whenever I go to schools, yes, I listen to teachers, I listen to that, but I like to also ask the children questions. I sit down.
Because they are the core recipients.
They're the ones that we want to get. Exactly. They're the ones we need on board.
Yeah.
So I sit down in their seats and I ask them questions. I listen to them. I really love to listen to the children. And over and over and over, it was the same thing the children were telling me. What were they telling me? How does what I am learning in school relate to what I'm going to do when I get out? Every single time they kept saying that. And I asked myself, things haven't changed. These are the same questions I had when I was a child in secondary school here in Nigeria before I went to the States. I had that same question. And then the way we mitigate it well, I can proudly speak of New York because, of course, I taught the longest in New York. The way we mitigate it in New York is when you're teaching a topic, there will always be that connection to the real world. There will always be that connection to what they are going to do when they come out of school. So whenever these children will always mention this, I will always say, why isn't anybody doing this for them? So I sat down that Christmas and wrote this book. In fact, I don't think I'll be able to sit down and write a book in that one stretch again like that.
And I must say that book is rich in content and discipline.
I just sat down and I look back and I'm like, wow, I must have been really driven because I will wake up, I will have breakfast, I will sit at my table and I will just put it together. And the core message was this: there has to be a connection between what we are teaching our children and what they're going to do when they come out. It doesn't, in fact, I like to emphasize that people should stop thinking that it's that linear secondary school, university. No, it could be they come out, they decide they want to open a business. It could be they decide they want to go to vocational schools. It could be university, which is the traditional way, but there should be so many avenues open. But the point is what they're learning should make that connection. There should be that connection. So future readiness, in a nutshell, really is the children acquiring skills, being able to test those skills when they're in school, seeing what they're learning, connecting to what they're going to see outside, and solving problems. In fact, I like to mention that a lot. Solving problems, solving problems, solving problems is really important. Solving problems.
All right, now before we go on the break, I just want to ask you one last question. What can teachers do? Because of course we know, I'm also an educator.
Yes.
Teachers are basically, should I say, the centerpiece of the educational process.
Everything.
Because they bring the children and the subject matter together. In your experience and in your work in the education space in Nigeria, what can teachers do differently to bridge, this gap you mentioned about what the children are learning and their actual living experiences?
Make connections. You're teaching music, make connections to music careers, areas in which what they're learning can be used in the music industry. In fact, today a music teacher was just telling me about how he was telling the students that they always think that all the time musicians only sing and dance. But they should realize that when you are somebody who says, I want to be a lawyer, you can actually parlay your understanding of legal skills and then what you now understand in music to being able to be a better lawyer to your clients who are in music. You can write better contracts for them. You can help them to find really good gigs. There's so many things you can do with that knowledge. So I shouldn't say because it was love. I loved what that teacher was saying, that I'm making a connection between what they're learning here with me and what they can be using it for and what they see out there. And that was a music teacher. Then also I had a entrepreneurship teacher tell me about how she was designing a project around the students setting up a supermarket, teaching them about profit and loss statements, teaching them about how to mark up inventory and how to balance out their books at the end of, let's say, every month, every 3 months, to know whether their business was profitable or not. And I said, wow, do you realize how valuable what you're teaching them is? I wish someone had taught me that when I was in secondary school. I was explaining to her that, I think it was in October, my financial advisor was trying to help me understand how to calculate those numbers, and I was looking at him in wonder.
It was going right over your head.
Yes, I was looking at him in wonder, like, nobody has ever done this for me before, you know? And this teacher is doing it to JS1 and JS2 children.
And then tying in mathematics.
Tying in mathematics, tying in the entrepreneurship studies, tying in all these different concepts. And I said, that is what true education is, holistic. Well-rounding off of the child in every single way.
Wow, that's awesome.
Well child.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right, we're going to go on a quick musical break. When we return, the Well Child Show continues. Don't go away. Welcome back. It's the Well Child Show, and my name is KEMAK Onyenucheya, your host. With me in the studio today discussing the topic Future Relevant Education is Ms. Adetola Salau, the Senior Special Assistant on STEM Education in Lagos State. You're welcome back, Tola.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's such a pleasure having you, and I'm really excited about your recent appointment because, like I said on social media, this appointment is totally not politically motivated, but it's a clarion call to greater work and to, you know, a larger platform to push a lot of the advancements and advocacy that you have been doing in secret for the past 10 years. So congratulations once again. Now, before we went on the break, we were talking about future relevant education, yes, and you were enlightening us on how teachers should make the learning in class relevant to the living experience of the children. Now, let's go to the parents, because education is a holistic goal. It has to do with both the school, the home, and the environment. What advice do you have for our parents watching, and how can they, you know, engage their children creatively to ensure that the learnings they have in school become relevant tools which they could use for, like you said, problem solving and having a more functional and balanced existence?
Okay. I will say, stop leaving all the work to the teachers. I'm so happy about you talking about everything being holistic for the children. Like I always say everywhere I go when I'm speaking about education, we need to understand that I call it a trinity. You know, since a lot of us understand
the
trinity,
concept,
yes. And the number 3 to me is divine. So I tell them that whenever I think about education, I think of the children first. Of course, we all know that already. I say the teachers, we already know that too. But we always forget that parents are also part of that trinity. Think about it.
So it's the children, the teachers, and the parents.
Think about it. Who are the first contact for the child? It's the parents. Who do the children imbibe values and the feelings about things? If you hear a child tell you, I don't like math, a lot of times, yes, it could be the experiences they've had with teachers, a lot of times. But also a lot of times I found out that it could be also what they've heard their mommy or their daddy say. Their daddy say, that mathematics, it's too much wahala, I can't do it, it's too hard. And the child automatically takes that in and say, oh, it's too hard, I can't do it. So a lot of times, how parents feel, how parents behave is also what gets passed down to the children. So yes, how do our parents equip our children? I'm sorry, to me, I feel like we're so blessed in this time and age that we live in. There's so many tools that we have that you can use. Number one, your smartphones, of course, to use for your children. But even if you don't have a smartphone, after all, my mother did not have a smartphone. Everyday activities, everyday learning, everyday experiences. What she used to do was always ask me questions about things that I observed around me in nature. She would use whatever was in front of us. I remember when we were farming, she would talk about mulching, she would talk about yields, she would talk about the science behind manure being broken down, chlorophyll. I mean, things that you saw, practical things you saw in front of you. Even the way she cooks, my son even made a comment the other day that she cooks like a scientist, and it's true, she does.
Wow.
She measures 1 cup of this, that. She cooks like a scientist. Everybody else, you know, you add this, you just dash. You
randomly.
No, she measures. I want this amount of this. I want to put this. And she puts it, you know, scientists, we put it in precise order. This comes then, and that comes down.
The next one.
She does it like that.
Wow.
You know, everybody else when I'm cooking, I just throw it in, add that, put that. But what works for her is order. Okay, I put this first. Okay, it's gotten to this level, it looks like this. Okay, then I do this. That's how she cooks, like a scientist. That's how she thinks, like a scientist. And it rubbed off on me, and it also rubbed off on my son. We think like scientists.
Wow, yeah, right.
Yeah, we think like scientists. So I'm saying all this to say, it's you in the homes, how you interact, how, in fact, I like to call them teachable moments. They're around you. You go to the market, you can talk to them about estimation, budgeting. You are looking at watching CNN, they're talking about climate change. You can start talking about the environment. What are the things we can do to eliminate and start bringing down, reducing climate change. Things that you can start engaging them and start talking to them. You don't have to wait for the teacher
Such that education should not be limited to when the children
what
are
doing
at the
in school. Yes, yes.
So bring it out from the school and make it livable moments.
That's right. You're watching something on TV, bam, discuss. You're seeing something on social media, discuss. You see that in newspaper, discuss. Even them, in fact, I love children because they will even spring it on you.
Right.
Oh, I heard this. What do you think about this? Unfortunately, the typical, I'm sorry, what I must say, the typical response a Nigerian parent gives, I say typical, because not all of us are like this, is, I'm too busy, go and rest, go and ask your teacher, go and use your phone. No.
But the narrative is changing.
I'm hoping so.
Now, with your recent appointment as the Senior Special Assistant on Science, Technology, Education and Mathematics Education in Lagos, what are the innovations that we hope to see in the education space, both from the angle of the teachers and the children, and possibly from the home?
We want to see more engagement. We want to drive more community participation. When I mean community, just like you said, the parents, we're going to be engaging them, talking to them about things that they can do, like what I was saying, with the children at home. We want to drive initiatives where the teachers are carrying out projects with the children at home, the children at school, engaging in more connections between what they're learning and what's out there, what's taking place in the world. We want to have the teachers do less, how would I put it? Less facilitation. No, facilitation is still good, but less being the sage, the person who is in front teaching, talking. Yes.
Dishing out information.
We want them to have the students take ownership of their learning. We want them to start having the children carry out research, work with their hands, carry out these projects, think the 21st century skills, creativity, the children to communicate what they're learning, to be critical thinkers, to be solving problems. We want to see all those things. We want the teachers to start driving this. So we're going to be equipping the teachers, we're going to be working with them, we're going to be working with our children. We want them to adopt global best practices we're seeing in STEM here. And then we want the parents to be involved, because remember I said it's a trinity. It's the children, it's the teachers, and it's the children. So we want to see that. We want to start carrying out these projects, this drive. In fact, the word I've been using on social media of late has been STEM revolution. We want to carry out a revolution. And I know we're going to do it. And the reason that I know it's so important for us is the world is changing so rapidly. Autonomous cars, that's self-driving cars, as far as I'm concerned, they're here to stay. We're going to be seeing more of them. We're going to be seeing less dependence on oil, which means we have to start
open up other
avenues of making money here.
Wow.
We are going to have to change how we go about farming. We can't continue to do it the old-fashioned way we're doing, because the new ways are going to create more yield. There's so many things that need to change. Where we compute, the way communication.
It's a whole lot.
Oh my God, yes it is.
But sadly we have run out of time. But with people like you occupying positions of policymakers, I have a lot of hope and faith that we are going to get to El Dorado for the sake of our children. Congratulations once again on your appointment, and we wish you all the best from the Well Child Show.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today.
Of course, thank you.
And to my precious viewers, remember, like we always say on this show, child health and safety is everybody's business. Education is a critical part of child health, wellness, and safety. And for the sake of the future of your child, get them enrolled in school. Don't forget, this conversation continues across all our social media platforms. You can connect with us on Instagram at The Well Child Show and at Global Child Health. Our YouTube channel is available to view this and previous editions of The Well Child Show on Well Child TV. And for questions and suggestions, as well as consulting and training info@wellchild.com. info.wellchildshow@gmail.com. And of course, let me use this privilege to call on well-intentioned organizations and individuals partner with us on the Well Child Show, and you are sure to get your money's worth. Call the number on your screen and we'll discuss a beautiful deal. Thank you for being with us today on the Well Child Show. My name is KEMAK Onyenuchea, and I'll see you on the next edition of the Well Child Show. Goodbye and God bless you.